Hey guys, welcome to Fantasy Effect episode of 61. We got a prospect preview with some of these running backs that we got coming in. We're short a guy tonight, no holler, but we got the McSpankster, a little under the weather, but on the mend. How's it going, McSpanky?
Pretty good. Yeah, we were talking before the show. I think my voice is coming across. You can still hear the sickness. I'm feeling a little bit better, but still got that nagging cough. And so I apologize if I come across extra nasally tonight too.
That's okay. I'll just join in.
Hey,
No problem.
hopefully it's not that bad. Oh God, I just became very self-conscious about
it. It's not that bad. All right, you want to jump right into the news here?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, we got the Justin Fields trade. Justin Fields gets traded from the Chicago Bears to the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's a 6th-round pick right now, but could go up to a 4th-rounder depending on play time. I believe that's 51% of the snaps as well at quarterback. Do you think that Pittsburgh does the smart thing and they just really wait it out with Russ and just keep letting them at it, and we start creeping closer to that 50% and we see Justin Fields start?
I mean, here's the thing, right? Like, unless Russell gets hurt, I don't think they're gonna just try to throw Fields in there. And Pittsburgh's always kind of right around that, 500 marker and kind of, a fringe playoff team. So there's no reason to play Fields, right? Like, Russell Wilson's good enough to kind of be your bridge quarterback and kind of let Fields, I guess, kind of reset. I don't know. Like, I don't think Fields is really going to see the field. But then Mike Tomlin's also talking him up the other day. But at the same time, like, you just traded for him. What are you going to do? Just start,
right? Yeah, you can't just trash him. Like,
like,
we're just happy he's around. Maybe he'll do something. And I think with Fields, definitely some hype up would probably help him out a little bit.
I've seen people still trading for him, which feels wild to me. Like, people are trading like, mid seconds in this year's draft, which I don't get it. I mean, would you send a 2nd-round pick for a backup who might play? Like, I don't.
No,
I don't.
No way. I was very out on Fields when he came into the NFL. And
fair. That's fair. You were.
And everybody came in here, but he's the Konami code. If he can figure it out, blah, blah, blah. So then I wound up with some shares, and now I'm super upset that I have like the 3 to 4 shares that I have, just because I was right the whole time, which I should have stuck to my guns. I should have just stuck to my guns.
Always stick to your guns, but also that quarterback class ended up sucking. I remember going into it was like, oh, as long as you get one of them, you're fine. And there's the whole. I mean, that was the Trevor Lawrence, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, and Mac Jones. And woof.
And really,
one of them starting still, and the rest are all backups.
Yeah, and kind of honestly, I think some point this offseason we should have a T-Law conversation.
Yeah, he's not who we thought he was.
Yeah, especially if they do not address wide receiver in the draft. I think that kind of spells some trouble for T-Law and his future and development. We saw, I kind of go on to it a little bit. I've been thinking about it a little bit. We saw Doug Peterson with Carson Wentz, and that kind of went to hell too, in Philly, and they kicked him out, after a while. And I remember there being receiver problems in Philly when Doug Peterson was there. It was like Alshon Jeffrey at the very tail end of his career kind of deal.
I think Rager was there too, wasn't he?
Yeah. They did. I guess they did try to address it, but yeah. Well, let's get off T-Law. Back to Fields a little bit here. What is the lowest pick you'll take for your Justin Fields?
If somebody wants to give me any two, that could be this year. It could be a next year too. Hell, it could be a 26 too. I will take it. If if people are going to try to offer me a third, I think I'll just hold on and just see what happens. But the
Sure.
second round pick, he's gone.
Yeah,
He's gone.
I took the 208 for Justin Fields in a league. Hey Wes, I can just say it. I don't have to type it. Okay. Hollywood Brown, Hollywood coming to KCMO, getting wild. Geez Louise, how excited are we about Hollywood with Patrick Mahomes?
I mean, pretty excited. I think he
Yeah.
finally gets a chance to not have to be the wide receiver one because that's not who he is. But he can play outside of Rashee Rice, and then a lot of attention on Travis Kelce. And he can just be like the burner kind of deep threat that he is. And his contract is
Yes.
like laced with incentives, right? It's like he gets like $250,000 for, I think it's like 5 touchdowns and like I want to say like 750 yards. He gets, so like I fully expect him to hit those metrics, right? So I think he's probably going to get a bunch of touchdowns. I think Marquise Brown is kind of who Kansas City has been trying to get, with like Marquez Valdez Scantling and what's the kids from Georgia, Mecole Hardman and Kadarius Toney, and they just could never quite figure it out. So I think Marquise Brown that was a home run, and they got him pretty cheap too, like compared to what some of these other receivers were going for.
Yeah, coming to play with the best quarterback in the league and the chance at a title, I think you make some sacrifices, especially, Hollywood hasn't had the cleanest bill of health. He's been injured quite often. When he is on the field, he is a talented guy, but it's definitely been hit or miss with him. I was trying to look up because I remember a very specific game with him against the Lions, and he probably dropped about 3 to 4 touchdowns in that game. I just wanted to kind of compare his drop rate to what MVS is putting out there for the Chiefs.
That's
not fair. To throw too much.
I don't think it's nearly as bad, but it's not right here. I'll pull it up real quick.
Well, he catches about 9% more passes than what MVS does.
His career drop percentage is 6.2%. So it's really not that bad. But his rookie year and his second year was 5.4 and then 9.2. So like he kind of had a higher drop rate. It's actually gone down quite a bit since he's been in the league.
Nice.
So I think hopefully he's kind of gotten that out of the system. And then conversely, MVS, his career is 9.1%. So MVS is dropping about 1 out of every 10 passes thrown his way, which feels like more when you watch it.
Louise.
So it's a significant upgrade.
Yeah, it's probably so rough when you see his drops too, because he's usually streaking down the field wide open,
all by himself.
Yeah.
I think we've all been there, when we're playing, backyard, like in the turkey ball, and we're all by ourselves, and it just bounces off our hands. And you're like, oh,
you just start juggling that thing in the air. Whoa! How'd you drop that?
What would you pay for Hollywood? Are you trying to buy him right now, or are you kind of just enjoying your value spikes on teams you have them on?
I'm enjoying the spikes that I have. I don't have much. I actually did acquire him. Ooh, thanks, Mitch. And it just doesn't even show up in here. I'm Dynasty Daddy for some reason right now. I did. Okay, so I only have 1 share, and I recently acquired him, and it was Hollywood Brown and like a mid 2 for Christian Kirk, which I was like, okay, I'm pretty stacked on that team. So I
sent Kirk second for Hollywood and the 2.
Yep,
I like that.
Yeah, and it was like right after he signed too. But I don't think acquiring him right now is your best bet. If you wanted to acquire Hollywood, you needed to do it pre this Kansas City signing, because I can see a lot of people just saying, hey, let's I want a first now. He's with Mahomes. He's going to be good.
Well, that's what his value is. It's like a late first right now, is from what I'm seeing. And I'm curious if you would pay that or not. I think I sold him for like a 111 not that long ago, which felt pretty good.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I would definitely sell him at those prices.
Yeah, because I mean, honestly, so he's 26, right? He hasn't been the wide receiver one that we necessarily wanted. There's a lot of wide receivers in this draft class. Why not take a late first if you can get it and just try to re-roll and see what you got, right?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, old Hollywood. Mike Williams signing with the Jets. Are you excited about this? Does it matter?
No.
How many games is he even going to play?
I was gonna say I saw something and it was like what an impossible matchup is Mike Williams staying healthy on the MetLife turf for a full season.
I saw that too.
And he's not even healthy yet, right? Like I think I saw something the other day. He's not necessarily ready for training camp. He's not a lock to be ready to go. So,
Jeez Louise.
That's already not a great sign.
No, not at all. I don't know. It's probably better for Garrett Wilson, I guess. Gives Aaron Rodgers another target for what he has left for that offense. I expect they probably add somebody via the draft. We've been seeing Brock Bowers mocked there.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean,
I have my feelings about.
He's 29 now. We've seen sometimes those bigger body guys when the injuries start racking up, the wheels fall off real quick, and it feels like he might. I mean, if he's already having issues in his recovery, it might be time that he's fallen off the wagon. So,
yep, I'm gonna have to fall off with old Mike too because I was scooping him up late in drafts.
Same.
I knew there was a chance
that he was a great value, right? Like,
yeah,
he was.
I thought there was a chance that he wound up back with Herbert, and I liked him there. But, having Rodgers and the intelligence that Rodgers can bring to the game and getting him, within the right thing, and they got the old get the guy to jump off sides and huck it deep. It seems like Mike Williams could catch a few of those, maybe capitalize on that value-wise. Are you going to go out and acquire Mike Williams?
No. I have a bunch of him, though. Like, I keep checking some of my rosters, getting ready for rookie drafts, and I'm like, hey, I have Mike Williams here, too. Because, Sleeper gives you that little notification. It's like, oh, you have players on IR that aren't, available anymore. And I'm like, oh, it's Mike Williams again. Surprise.
Oh, my lordy.
So we're going to – I think he's going to die on my roster because I think right now, like, he's probably going for, like a late second, early third?
Yeah, it can't be anything great. That's for sure. I'd be surprised, honestly, at the seconds at this point, just kind of where we're headed in the season,
For sure.
But there's probably some truthers out there. I mean, when he is on the field, he's legit, man, but it's never for very long.
For all, 6 games.
He burns very bright.
He does.
Yeah.
He makes some ridiculous catch and just lands just the most Looney Tunes type landing and breaks his back.
Right.
So
Just stand. Keep them feet on the ground. Keep them feet on the ground. All right. Let's head to Raider country here. Alexander Madison, how hyped are you?
Not at all. Zero. Absolutely zero. Although, okay, so what I will say for this signing, I think it actually makes me believe in Zamir White a little bit more, just because I don't think Alexander Madison is anything more than just like a nice running back 2. So I think that kind of shows me more that they are less inclined to draft a running back, I guess at least early in the first, 3-4 rounds. So I think that means Zamir White should at least have some value going forward, at least this year. I'm assuming they will upgrade at the position at some point, but I think this year it seems like the way the Raiders team is going right now is they try to address some of their needs in free agency, and then they're going to draft the rest of it. So they didn't. They signed Madison, so I don't think they're going to draft someone. Zamir White, who surprised. Did you know he was such a country boy?
I did not, and
did you
I
see
shared.
That?
Oh my goodness, dude! Honestly, it was kind of glorious, and I didn't know Todd Bowles had like the same Southern drawl too. I could listen to him and Todd Bowles talk all day. Like if they want to read like children's books or something, I don't know what they could get going, dude. I love it. Yeah, man. And he was talking about working with his horses. That's his workout. Like, dude, like seriously country strong, dude. Like he is not messing around. I'm just reposting our show here on Twitter.
Perfect.
I don't know. Josh Reynolds today signs a 2-year deal with the Broncos.
Yeah.
2 years. Jeez Louise, I saw he signed with Broncos. I didn't see it was 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Good for Josh Reynolds. I think Josh Reynolds is a fine wide receiver, but I also think he's not fine without Jared Goff. I think him and Goff had a really good connection from LA because I believe he got paid by the Tennessee Titans and wound up getting cut by them, went back to LA, and then he wound up with Goff again in Detroit. And I was actually pretty excited when we picked him up because we only had like the sun god at that point in time, I think.
Sure.
And yeah, I think honestly, drops aside, I think everybody has a sour taste in their mouth about Reynolds in that very last game watching those drops. He was solid all year long. You could go to him on a third down, and he more often than not was making the catch. But yeah, nothing special here. Like, I'm not going to go out and acquire Josh Reynolds to catch passes from Jarrett Stidham.
No. Yeah, that's going to be real ugly.
Do you think that's how they roll into the season?
I don't think that's what they want to do, but at the same time, with where they're drafting, it might be what happens, unless they take like a Bo Nix or a Michael Penix kind of in the second round.
Yeah,
which actually they don't have their second round pick, do they? So maybe they're not.
I am not certain on their draft capital.
I will pull it up, but I do think that the Reynolds signing was interesting because I figured they were going to add someone at the wide receiver room. But I think this is good news for Marvin Mims that it was Josh Reynolds they brought in and not like a rookie wide receiver in the because they had the 12th overall pick. They could have very easily taken one, and I mean they still might, but this feels like they believe in Marvin Mims. Now, granted, they might go in with Jarrett Stidham, and that's not ideal. Yes, so their second round pick 45 overall belongs to the Saints. It was part of the deal to get
The
Sean Payton
deal. Okay.
So, which is really coming back to bite them.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I don't know what to think about Marvin Mims. Kind of stinks that Holler's not here for this one because that's kind of his dude, man. He was touting Marvin Mims for us last year along with Puka Nacua.
Yeah, dude, he was on fire. Well, I mean, Mims didn't do anything, but I think Mims is in for a really good year this year. I've been acquiring him a little bit, just because you can get him for fairly cheap. People don't necessarily want him. I think it's because of the stink of Jarrett Stidham, but I also think that with Sean Payton there's a baseline for at least some semblance of an offense, regardless of who they roll out there. So, and I think Mims is the guy. I mean, Cortland Sutton's not anything special at this point in his career, right? Like, and he gets injured quite a bit too. So, why not Mims?
Yeah, definitely. There's targets to be had. That is for sure. With Judy out of town. In Cleveland now, man, I just don't know with Mims. I don't know.
Would you do Marvin Mims or Jahan Dotson?
I'll take Jahan Dotson right now because the odds on the Commanders drafting a quarterback and then said hype because Dotson had quite a bit of hype leading into last offseason. So I think there's more believers in Jahan Dotson than there is Marvin Mims. And that's strictly just betting on like the upside of what the rookie quarterback and new excitement can bring for Jahan Dotson.
All right. Marvin Mims or Tajay Spears?
Mr. No Knees himself. That's a tough one.
Can't tear the ACL if you don't have one. So
right. So it's definitely a bonus.
Galaxy brain, yeah.
Right. Let's really think this one through here. Man, I'm gonna say give me Tajay Spears. I just feel more confident in volume / relevance and being more comfy to start him on a weekly basis.
Okay. Let's see how bad you really hate Marvin Mims. J-Mo or Marvin Mims?
Wow, J-Mo.
Okay, so you do hate Marvin Mims. All right.
I don't listen. You can't ask about a Detroit line. I'm going to pick the Detroit line every single time.
That was a little that was a little rigged.
That was biased and unfair. Loaded.
Fair enough.
Year 3 glow up. It's coming, guys. Don't worry.
Yeah, we'll see.
I'm going to run naked through the streets if it happens. Okay. Yeah.
Just make sure you tape it.
Okay, I'll get the wife ready.
Perfect.
When do you think
Perfect.
it's acceptable for me to do that? Like midway through the season, or like if he game one he comes out 150, 2 touchdowns? Can I do it week
No,
one?
no, he needs to wait until like the first 6 weeks, and if he has 4 usable
Okay.
weeks, then you can do it.
Okay. Okay. I'll hold you to it.
Okay.
I'll
Perfect.
you'll
Yeah,
get you'll get a
jot that down.
text. McSpanky, is it the time?
Perfect. I know what it means.
Okay. I don't know what it means. You ready to hop into these running backs here?
Yeah, for sure. Let's do it.
Oh, wait. While we're on Marvin Mims real quick, we did do a little bet in our group chat.
We did. Yeah.
And
Oh, I forgot. You really hate him. Okay.
I don't
So
really hate. Oh my lord.
you
Okay,
do.
so I say that there's no way that Marvin Mims is a top 50 wide receiver on a points per game basis. McSpanky and Holler say yes.
I mean, granted, he almost was this last year, and he hardly played.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was like wide receiver
Yeah,
like 60 something. So
yeah, we'll
and
see.
now he's going to be on the field. Like I just don't see how
You
he
can't
doesn't hit
guarantee
that.
that.
That feels really low, but I'll take that one because I think I'm going to be I'm in a deficit after the Bo Nix thing.
No, I was gonna say you guys gotta get me on one of them here. We should keep a record of these too. We really should.
All right.
Um, the record will just be in my head, and I always win. That's how it rolls. That's how it goes for my kids.
Perfect.
Okay. Let's hop into these running backs here. Running back landing spots. I see you got here for some tier one spots. We have the Chargers and the Cowboys, and tier two, Carolina Panthers and New York Giants. You're going to have to talk me into both of these. The
Okay.
Carolina Panthers actually less because of the
Okay.
guard investments that they made via free agency. I think
Uh,
that's pretty good for the run game.
yeah. Okay. So the Panthers won. They paid 2 guards like a combined like $150 million. Like they gave 2 guards basically tackle money, right? So and then Dave Canales at the combine basically I think his quote was, I can't wait to show you guys how stubborn I am trying to run the football. So I know Chuba Hubbard's there. Miles Sanders he's a ghost. He's gone. So I
Yeah.
think if a running back goes in there when day 2 draft capital, they're going to be ready to roll, right? And I think they're gonna run the ball. They got to protect Bryce Young.
Mhm.
He's not. I don't think he's a guy that you can just drop him back 40 times a game and expect him to survive the season. So they're going to try to run quite a bit. And then the Giants, that one's more. It's just Evan Singletary in the backfield, and Singletary's never been a guy that has taken a whole backfield by himself. So that's more. And there's such bad talent on that Giants team that if a
Mhm.
running back is drafted there in the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft, they're almost the best player on that offense just by default because there's really no one there left other than Wandale and Wandale,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
Jalen Hyatt. Jalen Hyatt's there. That's one
stand
of
by
the
what I
round
said.
bears. Yeah. Well, we'll hold out some hope for him. What about? Do you think Cleveland could be in the market for a running back, given Chubb's injury, his age, kind of what we saw from Jerome Ford the
I,
past year? They wound up bringing in Kareem Hunt by the end of the year, and he was dust um, at that point too.
they did.
Uh,
I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, crazy things happen in the draft. I wouldn't be.
sure.
I would be a little bummed, right, if the Browns drafted someone because I think it would be one of those situations where there's like a 3-man rotation between Chubb, Ford,
Yeah.
and whoever the rookie is. That being said,
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like there's always one, kind of running back prospect that we like that gets, crapped on by a bad landing spot. I was thinking about Zach Charbonnet last year, where he got good draft capital, but he went to the Seahawks to go with, you know, Kenneth Walker,
Well, it's
which
because he's a
kind of.
backup running back.
Uh,
uh,
I,
um, what about? Do you think Kansas City could take one and supplant Mr. Angry Runs himself, Isaiah Pacheco?
I think Kansas City could take a running back. I think I mean, Pacheco's not anything special. he's a fine runner,
Yeah.
and they also have no like investment in him. Yeah, he was a
Right.
7th round pick, so like he's very easily replaceable. It's just and Kansas City's one of those teams too. They have the luxury of they don't. I mean, they just came off Super Bowl. They don't have like a ton of gaping holes on their roster. They have the
Right.
luxury of just kind of doing whatever it is. And so if a good running back falls to them, they can just take him, kind of a best player available, and then figure out the problem later. So
Yeah. I agree. I agree with that for sure. Okay. Oh, you want to get into Trey Benson here?
let's do it. Is he your running back 1?
No.
Okay. So he is mine, but he is tiered with the other 2 guys we're talking about. And I kind of brought this up in the Discord the other day, but I think between these 3 guys, so Trey Benson, Brooks, and Blake Corum, we'll kind of get into all these guys, but I think whoever gets the best landing spot and the best draft capital is going to be the running back 1, just kind of at a default. So,
Okay. Are you talking like rookie draft wise, or like they'll swap to running back 1 for you? Or you're staying Benson, you're sticking to your guns all the way through. There's nothing that changes.
No, they're all 3 of them right now are in one tier for me, just because I don't see a ton of difference necessarily, and I think the draft capital is probably going to be 3rd round, basically day 2, maybe late round 2.
Okay.
But let's talk about Trey Benson, right? So I mean, he's got good size. He's 6 foot, 216.
Mm-hmm.
He ran a 4.3940 at the combine, which we were talking about before the show. That really surprised me. I don't see that at all when I watch him. He does not run that fast. Like I've never seen him kind of with that kind of like burst. Analytic wise, he meets some of the thresholds for yards per route run for running back, missed tackles forced per touch, average yards after contact. His speed score in large part due to the 40-yard dash time, and then the percent of rushes that he had that resulted in a 10-yard plus run, which actually was a little more impressive to me just based on Florida State doesn't have a very good offensive line. And kind of what you see there, right, when you kind of turn on the tape, at least what I see is, he's got good contact balance. He generally doesn't necessarily go down on the first contact, and then he can set guys up and make them miss. He has really good patience behind the line of scrimmage, right? So he's not just trying to hit the hole and just whatever. He can kind of set up his defenders. He was a pretty good receiver, but he wasn't used a ton, at least from what I could tell. It seems like he had some nice catches where the ball was kind of off target. But the big thing is that he's very underwhelming when you watch him.
Yeah.
And it pains me to say that because I have him kind of as like that running back 1, but it just goes to show this running back class isn't like nothing like stands out. It's like, oh my God, like you got to have this guy.
Nope. Yeah, I agree with you. We're like you mentioned, we were talking before the show, and I had to restart Benson's film like multiple times just to get through his games because like I would just get bored and I would just go start doing something else. And the only pushback I'll give on Benson is I actually don't think his vision is very good. I think he makes a few wrong choices here and there. Nothing terrible, it's not like the Trent Richardson meme that had gone on forever. He's not like that bad with his vision or anything. But I think comparatively towards what I saw with Brooks and Corum, I like their vision better. And just getting north and south and really, seeing him run that 4.3 and 4.39, I can't agree more with you about like that speed does not show up on the field. He's got a few breakaway runs, here and there, but none that were just like, oh my goodness, he just roasted everybody out there. Like it's just a wide open gaping hole. And he happened to hit that one, So I
got a fun game for you. Fun game for you. How many times did Trey Benson go over 100 rushing yards this past season at Florida State?
Oh, jeez Louise. 4.
Just once.
One time? Jeez Louise, I was trying to be nice with the 4.
He went for 2 bills against Virginia Tech, who has a terrible defense. Yeah, so that's bad too, right? And like he feasted for 3 of his touchdowns came against Southern Miss. He had one against Pittsburgh, 1 against Wake Forest, 2 against Virginia Tech, all of which have
just powerhouses out here.
pretty terrible. Yeah, like I was looking at his tape, or his stat line. So against LSU, 12 attempts, 47 yards. Clemson, 7 rushes, 25 yards. Louisville,
This is why I kept showing
18 rushes, 67 yards. Like against the good teams, it wasn't pretty. It was pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean,
Which is
if somebody
concerning.
meets him in the hole, man, like he's not. I don't think he's making dudes miss in the hole. I didn't see that. I saw more than enough times that linebacker fill the hole, and just like he's going down there. You know, he might fall forward and do the right thing in that, but he doesn't give you any extra juice to the play.
No.
Based off that.
You know who he kind of reminds me of a little bit is Isaiah Spiller, and that, or sorry, not yes, the kid from Texas A&M. And that people really liked him, and then as the draft process went on, he just kind of went further and further down. As we started talking about him, I think I'm talking myself out of having him as my running back 1, but
I think you should make him like a tier below the other two, to be honest. But there'll be some caveats to that, especially when it comes to Corum, for sure.
Yeah.
You want to move on to Brooks here?
Let's do it. Okay. So I think if he was coming in healthy, I think he would, and had finished the full season, I think he'd clearly be the best running back in this class. He's the one that, like, when you watch in this class, he's like, I don't know about you, but when I was watching all these running backs, I just kept thinking, like, okay, there's just another guy. But Brooks is the one that I was like, oh, finally someone has got some juice, and someone like is actually like popping off the off the tape. And so he another one that like he seems really fast. He's got good vision. I think he was a really good receiver in the passing game. Also, I couldn't help but notice, even on like his screen passes, how bad Quinn Ewers was. That was one of my big takeaways. Was like, good God, how are so many of these balls that are like on the line of scrimmage off target? It made no sense to me. But he made adjustments and ran really well. The biggest issue for me with him is that he tore his ACL in November of last year. So supposedly, his medicals came back pretty good, and he's supposed to be ready for training camp. But I would just be a little nervous just on, especially how he's going to start the season, just knowing he's coming off a torn ACL.
Yeah, especially, if he gets the draft capital, and where, he gets that draft capital, he probably bumps into that late round first, and then it becomes a real decision. Do I want to take, these wide receivers that are going in the back half of the second there, or I'm sorry, not the back half of the first round. And, we're looking at Xavier Worthy, Troy Franklin, Lad McConkey.
Yeah.
Where does Pearsall go if he gets good draft capital? I don't know if he can up all the way that high, but that's when it becomes a decision, because, I mean, we both think Lad McConkey's pretty darn good. I mean, are you going to take Brooks over any of these wide receivers?
I have him tiered right now with Lad McConkey and Roman Wilson, actually. But I very much dislike Brian Thomas, and so he's below them right now. So I think that's not a popular opinion.
Overrated. I'm right there behind you with it. Don't worry, you got all the support in the world for me about no on Brian Thomas.
Holler's not here to stick up for Brian Thomas.
Listen, he's a super smooth athlete. That is for sure.
Also, the one landing spot I've seen for Jonathan Brooks is quite often is the Dallas Cowboys, who like really need a running back at the tail end of the second round. Like, and if that comes to fruition, like I think he would almost have to be a first round pick, right, in rookie drafts.
Yeah, just based off the volume that he should step right into, because what they do, re-sign Rico Dwaddle.
Yeah,
Rico Dwaddle and Deuce Vaughn is their running back room as of today. So yeah, I mean, it's wheels up for whatever running back steps in there.
For sure.
And I believe he's supposed to be ready for training camp based off of the reports.
That is what we heard, and the Cowboys team doctor is the one that actually did his surgery too. So if anyone knows
for
how good his knee is, it would be them, which I think makes a lot of sense.
Do you think if it, oh man, I don't want to say if he slips past the Cowboys and they keep passing on him, because I mean they could have, their big board could be, there's also defensive players in the draft that we don't account for these type of things. Maybe they have somebody ranked really highly, but if we see Dallas pass on him multiple times, do you think that kind of sends some alarm bells up for you? And they take a running back. So if they take Trey Benson and Brooks is on the board, do you think that's like, ooh, maybe that knee is not what it's supposed to be?
Question their scouting department more than anything.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. They should be. They should be questioned.
On Jonathan Brooks, just real quick, would you take him, or if someone offered you, let's say you're on the clock and he's the guy you want to take, would you take him, or if someone offered you DeAndre Swift straight up, would you do Swift?
I would need to be competing to make that choice, but I think I would take Swift just because I know what Swift can be.
What about Amari Cooper?
Definitely competing. I'm going to take Amari Cooper for sure. That's a wide receiver 1 for the season on a question mark running back in a weak running back class to begin with.
What about Geno Smith?
Oh, man. Geez. I'll take Brooks, I think. It's another tough one, and I don't want to keep like hedging and doing it's roster dependent. Yeah, like I don't want to say that for every single one of these, but not competing. I'm taking Jonathan Brooks on all those trades, probably pretty easily, just for the hype that he can bring. If Geno's my quarterback 3, and I want more running back depth because I'm starting Josh Allen and Matt Stafford or Kirk Cousins or something like that, where I'm like, Geno's not really stepping into the lineup except for the bye week here, or an injury happens. I may do that for some running back depth. But honestly, I have some concerns for Geno Smith's future as well, past this year.
Same. For sure.
But I thought that Jonathan Brooks I thought he's really patient behind the line of scrimmage. He really picks and chooses his spots, and I don't know if that's just the Sarkisian system or if that's how Jonathan Brooks runs. I think he follows his blocks really well, and any DBs going low, he's just shedding that tackle pretty easily. Is what I saw from him.
Fair.
Not a lot of pass blocking from any of these guys that I watched. Of course, once we get to Corum, they don't really pass the ball very often at all. So
it would be hard to do that.
Yeah.
The one concern for Brooks is that he really only played the one season and he didn't finish it. Just because he was behind Bijan.
It's tough to get on the field there.
And Roshan too, to be fair. So so a very limited sample size. It was good what we saw, but it was, there wasn't a ton there, not a ton of tape. So we played in like 12 games. They were good 12 games though.
Yes, they were. I enjoyed watching them. I watched a lot of Texas this past year because they were actually good and they were on TV. So get Texas on the screen, and I enjoyed watching him even before we thought he would get this draft capital and all kinds of all that stuff, all that shenanigans. Blake Corum, Short King.
Short Kings. So he's 5'8", 205. So he is very short. He actually, he ran a 4.53 40 time at the combine. He actually had a really good, shuttle time. I don't have it offhand, but at his pro day, he was pretty good there. So, all right, here's some of the problems I have with Blake Corum.
Okay.
Right. He scored a lot of touchdowns. A bunch of his volume was fantastic because he played 4 years at Michigan, and in the last 2 years he was the guy, right? So the last 2 years, he scored 27 rushing touchdowns, 18 rushing touchdowns. That's a crap ton of touchdowns, right? Part of that though I mean, 258 rush attempts, 248 rush attempts, right? Like that's. I mean, Trey Benson never went over like 150 once, so like he's getting just a ton of volume. Now, is this an instance where he looks good because he ran the ball just so much? And I mean, all those touchdowns, right? Like I saw a tweet and like I forget, but basically it was like only 4 of them were over like 5 like rushing yards. It was like the Jamal Williams stat line of like last year, right? Where he had
Yeah.
like a ton of touchdowns, but they were like 1 yard, 1 yard, 1 yard, 1 yard, 2 yards, 3 yards.
Yes.
Is
Yep.
that and also he got the benefit of playing behind one of the best offensive lines in the country at Michigan with a
Right.
ton of rushing volume. Now,
So
yeah,
I'm gonna push back a little bit there
yeah,
on you
please.
because we never knock down Alabama running backs because they get the benefit of that Alabama offensive line, and we know that that's always solid. We don't knock down any Georgia player, any Georgia running back because of that offensive line.
Okay.
I think with his vision, and I think the Jamal Williams is kind of perfect because I don't see him being much more
Yeah.
than that in between the tackles kind of grinder type of dude, and he does it really well. He even snaps a few runs off here and there. He's not going very
Occasionally.
far, but
Yeah.
yeah, he will break a few things here or there. And man, I just if he gets that Chargers landing spot with old Jimmy Harbaugh, here comes the carries. I know the Gus Bus is there now, but man, I think Corum is really good, and I think he's going to be a solid back in the NFL.
That's fair. He's the one that I think it's the easiest, especially if he goes to the Chargers. It's like the easiest, like to say, like yes, he's gonna get the carries. He's gonna be a successful pro. I don't know how like he might be one where he's a better like pro player than he is like for a fantasy asset.
Yeah,
And that's not like a to knock on him. It's just I don't know if he's going to get the same volume, and if he doesn't get that volume, is he going to be what you want in a fantasy asset? And that's the only reason why I have hesitation with Blake Corum. But because like the film itself is really good. Like I think he has some of the best vision in this class. He's also
yeah, I agree.
really shifty. Like he's
Yes,
you get him in the hole and he's like, defenders think they have him wrapped up and he's making a move and he's gone. Right now
yeah,
he doesn't stay gone because he doesn't have that long speed,
right, right.
which is another problem. But he is pretty like he's quick. Like is probably the best way to decide it. Like he's got good lateral movement. I think he's a better pass catcher than we give him credit for. I just don't think
Yeah.
Michigan uses their running backs like that, and they had Donovan Edwards there last year.
Yeah, I was gonna say they had the other
their
back
pass
that's
catching
supposed to be
running
the
back.
pass
So
catcher. Yeah,
I think he can do it though. It's just they didn't use him that way. So he's a little shorter, but he's quite he's stocky. Like he's got enough weight. That's not a concern for me. It's
right.
really just if he doesn't get a bunch of touchdowns, is he going to be fantasy relevant? Is my only concern with him.
Yeah, that's fair. I think over the last 2 years, you can see that he can obviously carry the load for a team if need be.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. But we have it in the notes that he does get comped to Kyron Williams a lot, and I kind of see that in there because I think they both have really good vision, and they're kind of like, oh, I thought I had you down there, and then there's like just like an extra 2 to 3 yards because they're not snapping off any runs. That's funny, Wes. And but yeah, I think if he gets a landing spot, kind of like Kyron did, where he can take that volume and just off a strict volume play on a plus offense, I think he'll be a really good back in the NFL.
Is Blake Corum your running back one?
No, he is behind John. So Jonathan Brooks is my running back one.
Okay.
But then it does go Corum and then Benson.
Where do you feel comfortable taking Corum in a Superflex tight end premium rookie draft?
Right now, pre any landing spots, I'm probably mid 2, early 2.
Okay.
I feel like there's enough guys that would pop into that early 2 section that I could get him as a mid 2 right now. Yeah, and the more and more time I spend, doing fantasy football stuff, I just want to draft players that I think are good players, and can stick in the NFL and get that opportunity. And I think that's what we have in Blake Corum is somebody that can stick around the NFL and can fall into the opportunity, because that's almost, look at all the injuries we had at running back last year. It's a rough position, and you can fall into that volume pretty easily.
Yeah, that's fair. And there are guys who end up being fantasy relevant at running back that aren't necessarily like the greatest talents. Like Gus Edwards comes to mind, right? He had some runs there in Baltimore, and
yes, he did.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense for him going to the Chargers. I see that mocked all the time just because he played for Jim Harbaugh in college and they have an obvious need.
Right.
And I fear if he ends up at that landing spot that he might start going too high in rookie drafts for me to feel comfortable taking him.
I definitely agree with that.
Because we talked about, Lad McConkey, Troy Franklin, A.D. Mitchell, not Ricky Pearsall, like Xavier Worthy, like Brian Thomas. I think I'd almost take all of them over Corum, except for maybe the Texas guys.
That's fair. There's a lot more excitement to those guys, even to the Texas guys, even though, with what we feel about them, there's way more hype surrounding the Texas guys right now than there is for Blake Corum. That's for sure.
They're fast, which is something you can't say for really any of these running backs.
No. I wish we could have seen Brooks actually run his 40 and get actual times on him. I guess we could pull GPS on him.
Yeah, I think he's plenty fast enough. But yeah, we just didn't get the times on him. And honestly, I think maybe we were too harsh on some of the Texas wide receivers, just watching how bad Quinn Ewers is.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. I've seen a few highlight videos of Mitchell running routes, and they're like, you wonder why he's not giving full effort every time, and like the ball is falling 10 yards short, or it's just way left, and he's just throwing his hands up. And yeah. I kind of agree, but don't come out and admit that you're not giving effort out there, man.
Yeah, no, for sure. Back to Blake Corum real quick. Would you take him or James Conner? Let's assume you're competing. And let's say Corum gets a good landing spot. Like, let's say he goes to either the Cowboys or the Chargers, just for the sake of this argument.
And I'm competing. I'm just going to go with the sure thing.
Okay.
And I'm going to go with Conner at this point in time.
Okay, that's fair. What about Joe Mixon?
If he gets Dallas, man, that would be. I'll take Mixon. That's like a top 10 offense right there.
Yeah. What about Nick Chubb?
And I'm competing. Man, that's a tough one. Because I see that Chubb name and I just think of all the good times Nick Chubb has put out there.
All the good times we had.
Yeah, all the good times we had. The best running back that everybody hates.
Fair.
You know what? Give me Chubb, because he's still the best running back that everybody hates until he's not.
Okay. Blake Corum or Hollywood Brown?
Let me have Corum, because I've never been a huge Hollywood fan, and I think this Kansas City thing is going to be short-lived.
Fair. Okay. I agree, by the way. I was just curious. That's all I had on the little name game there.
As for some relevant running backs we had last year that fell into some spots, Donta Foreman, Devin Singletary, and you mentioned Gus Bus already. I mean, even Zach Moss had his time with the Colts. We can see what scheme can do for probably average talent running backs we're talking about here, and I think Corum is at least average.
Would you be excited for any of these running backs to end up in Cincinnati? Because I know it's Chase Brown, who I think they got for a 5th-round pick last year, if memory serves, and then Zach Moss, who they gave some money to, but not a ton.
Yeah. So I think I would, because the possibilities of them being a top 10 offense again in 2024, I think it is pretty probable. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, you can find yourself falling into the end zone, a la Jamal Williams style. But I think that Cincinnati will roll with, because I wanted to ask you this question, but I just think that they probably like what they saw in Chase Brown last year, because he did look spry and electric out there, catching some passes. And then you have your grinder in Zach Moss, and I think they might feel set at that point, because Moss is, he's pretty young still. What's this, his 4th year in the league?
Something like that, 4th or 5th, yeah. And I think Cincinnati has bigger problems with skill talent on the offense than running back. I mean, Jamar Chase, obviously, they're not going to let him go anywhere. But T. Higgins obviously isn't happy. Doesn't seem like they want to pay him money. They don't really have a tight end. That's kind of a big issue. And there's really no one behind Higgins or Chase either, because Tyler Boyd's a free agent still. There's the kid from Princeton, Andre Iosifas, I think.
Oh, yeah.
He had some moments last year, but I mean, that's not ideal, right? So I think they're more likely to spend on pass catchers for Joe Burrow than they are a running back. Real quick, before we get out of here, we talked about kind of our top 3 running backs. Who else are you kind of interested in at the running back position? Not to put you on the spot, but I'm going to.
I want to see what happens with Jalen Wright. I don't know that he has the vision or skill set of these guys, but the measurables are all there. If you can get him out into space, I actually kind of think sneakily, if he went to Kansas City, that'd be pretty sweet for him as a pass catcher.
For sure.
I don't know, everybody's talking about Marshawn Lloyd. I haven't really dove into Lloyd too much.
Lloyd's good. He does have a bit of a fumbling problem.
Yeah, I remember that, because I watched one game and he fumbled twice, and the film was only about like 5 minutes long. So I mean, that's not very many carries. And then we had talked about that in the DMs with him. That makes me worried about him. If you fumble in college, you're going to fumble in the pros. I've been hearing some hype for Will Shipley.
Yeah,
and I really want to see what happens with Estime, because I think Estime, I think he actually is a good running back, and he put together a better 40 time at the pro day, and we saw him rip off some holler with a surprise guest appearance in the comments. But he put together a better 40 time, and I think he's a solid running back, movement-wise, vision-wise, all that kind of stuff, and kind of the same as these other guys, landing spot dependent. I could see him being somewhat relevant. The only thing I hate about Estime is he looks like Tarzan, but he kind of plays like Jane.
I disagree wholeheartedly.
I don't think
there
he's
were
physical.
so many times where he just moved the pile of just dudes.
That's fair.
And some of that, the offensive line at Notre Dame's pretty good and was pushing them, but Estime's he's like a good dude.
When he got out into the open field with DBs, though, like, I want to see some Derrick Henry-esque stiff arms coming from this dude. I want to see him lower that shoulder. And I saw more of Brandon Jacobs. Oh, yeah, I'm sure he did. But, I mean, that's more like on the athleticism part, kind of doing – I don't know. He's not doing what – when I see that guy, I expect to get a shoulder, into my face because of what this dude looks like. And he looks to me more like he's looking to juke everybody out.
All right, well, I'll tell you some games of his to watch, because there's a couple.
Okay.
The 2022 Clemson game in particular is one that if you watch that, he basically, I mean, he won that game single handedly. The other running back that I want to talk about just real quick is Bucky Irving. I know he tested like absolute garbage at the combine, but I still think he plays better than and more athletic than he showed. Maybe he was sick at the combine. Let's go with that. But
that's what we found out about Corley.
Yeah. So I mean, Bucky's. I don't know, man. I think there's some talent there. I'm interested to see where he goes. He'll probably is going more in like the 4th round now, maybe even late 4th. But I think if he gets a decent landing spot, I'm still intrigued there. And then obviously Estime and Jalen Wright are the other two. They're kind of my next tier of guys that I'm interested to see where they go.
Yeah. A few other names to kind of monitor as well too. Rasheen Ali out of Marshall. I had heard the name mentioned before, I think on Football Guys podcast, and then Dane Brugler posted something about him today. And if Dane says something about somebody I normally am like, maybe I should at least, look into this guy. And then where did he go? Lobb or whatever from New Hampshire.
Oh, yeah.
People seem to be pretty interested in what his skill set actually is. And there's the dude out of Louisville that ran the Blazing Fast 40.
Or whatever. Yes, who never showed that ever at his time at Louisville, but damn, did he look fast in shorts.
Yeah. Yes, he did. But, he couldn't surpass Braylon Allen at Wisconsin. He couldn't surpass whoever was on the Louisville team with him. I can't even tell you that running back's name.
Jahar Jordan was the guy.
Jahar Jordan, yeah.
Another small school guy, Isaiah Davis out of South Dakota State. He's got a little bit. He's a little bit interesting too. He's kind of he's a bigger back. He's a small school guy though. Seems like every year we get a running back
South Dakota State,
someone from South Dakota State, either tight end or running back. But he's 6'1", 220. Like he's supposedly his GPS times where he was hauling. So
really
now granted, he's playing against D2 schools, right? So we'll see.
Sure.
But that's a name to keep an eye on. I like what I saw. I didn't see a ton. There's not a ton of tape out there for him, but he's got a little juice.
Yeah, I agree. Well, you got anything else?
That is all I got. I emptied the barrel with my South Dakota State,
You start talking about South Dakota State, yeah, we're probably getting towards the end.
That's the end. That's the last straw in the bag.
All right, let's get out of here.
All right. Peace out, guys.
See you guys.